Hello, welcome to the Square Base Show with your hosts Rob and Val, and today we will not see the forest for the trees because we're going to deep dive the wood elves.
I'm a tree. Welcome, Rob.
Your amateur theater. I was impressed by that tree. I was like, wow.
Took me a second to have the improv stuff. What's that? What is that? What is that, Rob? It's a deep dive!
Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
Ria Woogas. Stop!
Stop!
Sometimes the Go XLR, she hasn't been supported with the hardware updates for some time now. I'm pretty sure the parent company went out of business. But
okay.
Hey,
okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
At least it wasn't goats.
Correct. I'm so glad about that. Listen, obviously, the Beastmen book not being out recently, that's some kind of hot news we could talk about another show, but we're going to dive straight in, obviously, submerge ourselves and, plant our roots into this Wood Elf book. Obviously, with the Arcane Journal.
Did you write a script?
No.
That was very good.
Thanks.
Wow.
Just a full night's sleep, ready to rock. We're going to be talking about Wood Elf doing deep dive, classic deep dive from Rob and Val, so get excited. This is obviously kind of an update to what we initially did when the book launched. And is kind of taking in some of those factors, what people have been playing with. Also, pretty excitedly, we may even cover what the evasive rule does for Val as we go through the game.
I appreciate that very much, because you know what? We won't even look it up. Rob, you can just tell us. I'm sure you just can do that one right off the top of your head.
I can actually. I was reading it before the show. I thought that would actually be pretty important. Okay. So first thing we're going to go and look at. Actually, let's hit up the TLDR like always. If someone was about to start playing Wood Elves or to jump into Wood Elves pre the Arcane Journal, how would you kind of describe the Wood Elf roster and the Wood Elf play style as to your experiences seeing them play and what you think's going on out there?
For me, Wood Elves have always been one of my. I think the only elf army that has ever sung to me, tree sang to me, if you will. And the reason for that is it plays, I think, like no other army in fantasy. It is, some have called it like the 40K army of fantasy because you get a lot of skirmishy, shooty type things. They're glass hammery, so they have low toughness. But they do have lots of sneaky tricks. They're sneaky. And they hide in the woods, they ambush you, and they prank the Bretonians, by pretending to be the lady in the lake. So they're really cool. I think they've got a very unique style within the setting. There's no other army really like them. Do they work right now as a top flight old world army? I guess we'll see. But yeah, that's sort of what they're all about. I think they're a very unique, very cool looking, very interesting army.
Yeah, so I'd say for me, my experience is seeing the Wood Elf roster play here quite a bit. We've had Wood Elves win a GT here. We've got a pretty consistent Wood Elf player. Shout out to Fraser. He's a superstar. I know he's very excited about this deep dive. To me, it's always really felt like the concept or the play style of what we've all kind of want Wood Elves to be, which is a hit and run skirmish army that lives in the forest, either really works too well or it doesn't really work at all, because it very much is like a block of infantry that just moves 4 inches into the middle of the board is either very susceptible to something that can move 1 billion inches and hide amongst a bunch of trees, or it's not. And so that kind of like that 1-0 Andor situation that you end up with is tough, because sometimes it can feel really strong and sometimes and I don't really think that they've ever nailed the rules with Wood Elves. I really don't think that they have, especially and if you were to go back to the design board, the whiteboard, and you'd say, hey, listen, what should we do with this army? You'd be like, well, cool. Maybe it could just be like green dudes with spears who move out of forests. Sometimes there's some archers. That would be fine. They could have some woodland spells. The skirmishy stuff, I think, becomes a little bit of a problem. Also, people generally feel bad about it. You see it with skinks as well. You see a bunch of skinks being around, Skaven as well. You see a bunch of those guys running around throwing some poison slings. People are like, this isn't Warhammer. And maybe to a degree, they're kind of right. You know what I mean? to some degree, but dragons feature, and they've got a great dragon that works super nice. They do have some great missile
Lovely
shooting.
dragon.
They had a nerf, one of our few actual updated nerfs that we've had for the old world, actually, which is kind of interesting. A targeted nerf,
which somewhat gutted the army from. And honestly, like as far as like tricks go, like a key element that an army has. Rob's referring to a big change to Sisters of the Thorn. They used to be able to choose a spell from either elementalism or battle magic, and the choice was always
Pillar of Fire.
Pillar of Fire. And so obviously the problem wasn't Pillar of Fire or the fact that you can spam the same spell multiple times in the same army. The problem was Sisters of the Thorn. So they removed the ability to pick spells.
But
and that kind of
Sisters of the Thorn.
That kind of killed the vibe of Sisters of the Thorn. I don't know. I still think they might have a use, but nonetheless, that was kind of because Wood Elves, I think what I didn't say in my spiel, and maybe you alluded to there a little bit, they are a points denial army. They win by killing some stuff and then not dying themselves, running away, being cagey, that kind of stuff. That's how they play. And yeah, it can be super frustrating and not a particularly, what's the word? Engaging game, because you're not getting those big fights. However, if you have a sickness like myself and you enjoy playing silly bullshit games, which I in fact do love indulging in, I rather enjoyed chasing a bunch of shadows and getting screwed over by elusive. Well, not really that one, but I did tip my cap to it when it worked on me real good. Like, so I do think the Wood Elves are interesting, but they're definitely not your like punch them in the mouth type of army.
No,
despite having one of the best punch them in the mouth units out there.
Yeah, they do have the roster to play that way, which I think is interesting. And again, as always, like maybe when we see core changes to inventory as an example and a bunch of other stuff, because at time of recording, inventory still isn't good. Dragons are super strong as an example. Right, so let's just dive straight in. I think that's a good kind of TLDR on roughly where the army is at. Okay, so if we go and... Okay, so let's take a look at the roster, shall we, and see what's in the different the Wood Elf Grand Army composition. So for characters, you can have one Glade Lord or one Spell Weaver per 1,000 points, and you can have up to one Treeman Ancient per 1,000 points, and then Glade Captains, multiple Glade Captains, Spell Singers, Shadow Dancers, Waystalkers, and Branch Wraiths. The Glade Lord obviously gives you option to have a fella on a dragon, which obviously which people love, and then you've got a Spell Weaver, who's your level 4. So we're done there with characters. You can add a couple of others in, but we've started to fill up our points, which is pretty nice.
Certainly, you can have a Tree Man Ancient though, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can have a Tree Man Ancient. Actually, I've got a real good kind of my hot take for Wood Elves is that because the rest of it is so fragile, and as we get to it, you will see everything is so fragile. A couple of fireballs, and you'll have a Wood Elf army running for the hills, which is very funny because obviously that's super thematic. Like that's really good. But there are some really strong units in here that won't give up points. For example, like a Treeman Ancient, like it's got like a good high toughness. Like it's good enough. Like, I'm trying to say it's not toughness 3 with a 5 up or 6 up save.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Fair.
That's what I'm trying to say. So it's interesting. So yeah, that's the hero section. For core, you've got to have one unit of Glade Guard.
That's fine.
That's fine. Then you need Eternal Guard, or you can have multiple Eternal Guard Dryads and Glade Riders, and then you can have up to one unit of Deepwood Scouts, maybe take it as core per 1,000 points, and they
delicious,
super good. And special, you got multiple Deepwood Scouts, Wildwood Rangers, War Dancers, Sister of the Thorn, Wild Riders, Warhawk Riders, and up to 2 units of Treekin per 1,000 points. And again, they're kind of for this book at least, they're in that tougher section of the book.
Yep, and they've kind of returned a little bit to form to their 6th, 7th edition style. But still they are susceptible to the fire.
Absolutely. And then
Ravage the
for rare, you can have a tree man, up to 1 unit of Wayward Watchers per Waystalker taken, and up to 3 Great Eagles as well. And then your Glade Captain can you be your BSB if you want, and you can your allies we don't really talk about that, and 20% mercenaries. So what do you think of the kind of overall kind of theme of the roster here?
Well, I think it's pretty cool. This is a rare one of the core armies that has a mandatory unit selection in the Glade Guard. Benefit of this is you're probably taking some Glade Guard. They are a very good core unit, I think. The one thing I would shout out is that this might be one of the armies most harmed, if you will, if you can call it a harm, by rule of 3 or rule of 0 to rule of 3/6, as Squarebase does for core, because it does stop you from being able to really lean in heavily on the MSU style list, because you could have a billion 5-person units of Glade Guard. So that's something.
Yeah, exactly. Like the multiple small unit build, which obviously, especially if you're building like a skirmish style, ambush style, hit and run army, that does again feel more in theme and in keeping with how the army should indeed play. So next up, let's look at the Wood Elf Realm special rules. First one, Elven Reflexes, a model with a special rule, but not its mount, has +1 modifier to its initiative characteristic to a maximum of 10 during the first round of any combat. A pretty common Elven buff here.
The mighty have fallen, Rob. Have the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, it's not quite always strikes first, like on everyone. But +1 modifier to initiative is pretty important, actually. There is enough initiative stuff that happens in the game. There's enough like key points, just key units that have initiative values that, again, +1 you're not mad at.
Yeah, not so bad. And it's the first round of any combat, so that includes when you get charged. Not just when you're doing the charging, but chargers tend to get +3, so may or may not help you too much. That's perfectly fine rule. Better to have +1 than not, right? Right.
And your initiative already
had my first game of Old World last week and had a blast. Got back into it from your excellent vids.
Thank you for Dice to meet you for donating £10 to the show. That's very nice of you. That's very lovely.
Well,
mid-recording. Nice. Huge. Hello. Thank you. That's very lovely. I was going to say that Wood Elves have a high initiative value already. So +1 is +1 on top of something that's already high. So that's solid.
Yep.
What's next, dude?
Talismanic tattoos. This is for those sultry war dancers. Talismanic tattoos give their wearer a 6+ ward save against any wound suffered. Again, better to have than not have, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. This feels like more thematic than it's anything else, right? But I guess this is a Rob thing before everyone watches. So if you do have any thoughts in the comments, do let me know. I've always been a 6+ ward or invuln or whatever you want to call it for any game system denier. Yeah, I've always been
denier.
Yeah, I've always been a denier. People are like, yeah, but you get a 6+ ward. I'm like, shut up. Like, I'm not. That's not my vibe. It's not something I take into account when writing army lists. It's nice to have. Especially is very good when you start going into like 100, 200 models. Then yes,
bingo. Sure. Yeah. Yes, when you have a lot of them. When you got the volume of the bodies, the 6+ ward does start having a return. On something like a war dancer, maybe it comes up.
Yeah, maybe it comes up. And that's what's really great about the Old World is maybe it comes up is one of those incredibly thematic moments where you need to make 2 6+ ward saves, you do it, and it changes the course of the game. And that is why Old World is so good. It's got a cinematic element to it in the roles. Anyway, Tree Spirit. I agree. A character with a special rule cannot join a unit without this special rule. A unit with a special rule cannot be joined or use the leadership characteristic of a character without this special rule. However, a unit with a special rule can use the leadership characteristic of a friendly character with a special rule that is not fleeing whilst within the character's command range. Jesus Christ. Okay, good. Okay. Trees can only go with trees, and that's how it works. Good. Let's move on.
And they can be or use the leadership characteristic without this. Does that include Inspiring Presence?
A friendly character with a special rule that is not fleeing whilst within this character's command range? Probably. But let us know in the comments below exactly what you've argued your place to.
And now we will discover what trees do when there's no one in the forest to see or hear them. It's tree whacking. Once per turn during the combat phase, a model. Why am I reading this like Donald Trump? Once per turn during the combat, a model with a special rule may use one of its attacks to make a single tree whack attack. To make a tree whack attack, nominate a single model within an enemy unit that this model is engaged in combat with to be the target of the attack. That model must immediately make Rob's favorite, an initiative test.
Mm-hmm.
If the test is failed, the target suffers D3 hits, each using the strength characteristic of this model, with no armor saves permitted. Warden regen may be attempted as normal. If the test is passed, the target manages to avoid the tree whack.
Mm. Yeah, no, I quite like Tree Whack as an ability, which is interesting. There was talk that the Wood Elves were trying to get. There were some prudish Wood Elves who were like saying we can't let all the fellas tree whack all the time.
Right?
Yeah, but but I think it's good it's there. But it's a good ability actually. I've faced against this, and I don't hate it at all. And obviously works really well into some armies versus other armies. But D3 hits is nice.
Yeah, once we go and look at who's got tree whack, I assume it's just the big trees, but I don't know that. It's going to be the opportunity cost, right? Because although it's only one of its attack, so that's not too bad.
No,
all right.
No.
I mean, it's useful.
Yeah, it's really good. D3 hits as well. Like that's
no armor saves.
Yeah, no armor saves. Really good in the right situation. It's excellent. Right, Woodland Ambush. Yeah. Once players have finished placing terrain, a Wood Elf Realms player may place one additional wood measuring between 8 and 12 inches its widest point. This may be placed anywhere on the battlefield that's not within their opponent's deployment zone, and it's not within 12 inches of the center of the battlefield. This is an amazingly fun rule, because you get to put a forest down, which is great. Yeah, you got a lot of move through cover. You got a lot of ability to block line of sight, etc., etc. But most importantly, this is given fuel to the fire of the most degenerate of us in the community. Shout out to all of you for creating L-shaped forests. Which specifically fit the dimensions of what this needs to be. People building the silliest list. Some people using mats. Some people doing all sorts of wild stuff here. But yes, you could just have a regular ass forest. But unfortunately, no. People have done some crazy stuff here. But that's
I'm a fan of the bracket forest. I like the bracket forest, so that you just put it on the table edge, and then they can stand in that little area, that little negative space there, and they're unseeable. It's fantastic. As written, it seems like it's straightforward. Oh, okay, I have an idea of what shape that's supposed to be. Wrong, rules writers. You gotta think more like a real sneaky tree whacker. They're gonna make some weird looking forests. So
they are.
Up to anyone, up to anyone who is running an event, whether or not you feel the need to specify what is meant by a wood measuring between 8 and 12 inches at its widest point.
Yeah, if you to do the math, you can basically create an L-shaped forest, which obviously doesn't really help the Wood Elf players pretend that they're not playing 40k, but in the old world. So something to be conscious of for the Wood Elf people. Pretty good. You also get a spell lore for the Wood Elves, the Lore of Athel Lauren, and the general rumor is that there's also going to be an additional spell lore coming out in the Arcane Journal. So yes, lots of spells to choose from.
So these are of course just signature spells, essentially replacements.
Yes.
These are things you can swap. You can swap in one of these, but a full lore rumored for the Arcane Journal. So tree singing, we got a magical vortex. It's casting value of 7 or 9. It's got a 15-inch range. It's a remains in play. If the spell is cast with a casting result of 7 or more, place a small 3-inch blast template so its central hole is within 15 inches of the caster. If the spell is cast with a casting result of 9 or more, place a large 5-inch blast template so that central hole is within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template does not move and is treated as a woodlands. And I can't see the rest.
I apologize. Let's see. There you go.
Sorry. Woodland terrain feature. Enemy units treat these woods as dangerous terrain. It's a dangerous wood,
but only to enemy units. treat it
That's
as
pretty good.
dangerous. Yeah, for sure. This is great. Also creates more line of sight blocking. Wood elves will be able to create little channels. Obviously, it's just a major issue, and again, is about slowing the enemy advance, slowing them moving to you, disrupting their lines, making it so that it's a problem to get at the wood elf lines. Because surprisingly, the wood elves don't really go to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got range shooting to do that. So, but also, they get a lot of different things get buffs if they are nearby a wood. So this is especially casters. So this is a handy way to make sure you always have a friendly forest nearby, which is good too.
Yeah, the next spell, Forest Walker, is a conveyance spell cast on a 10. It's got a range of 24 inches. This spell can only target friendly wood elf character that is completely within a woodland terrain. If the target is not fleeing, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it so that it's completely within a different wood anywhere on the battlefield, but not within 6 inches of enemy models. The target cannot move again during its movement phase. This is obviously excellent as a spell. Absolutely excellent, especially when the way angles and chasing down enemy units works, and people gunning for one of your wizards. It's a high casting value though, so that's probably the major issue here. You can't reliably get out of dodge, but getting out of dodge is a really fun tactic. The enemy big bruiser unit makes a beeline for maybe your squishy bunker or something similar. Move the wizard out of the way, move the points out of the way, deny the points to the enemy. It's a solid tactic. I just think the casting value is high.
Yeah, casting value is fairly high here. I would have loved to see the casting value higher on tree singing so that the remains in play was harder to dispel, because it is kind of easy to punk that forest that pops up. And then, 10 plus, but I mean, level 4, still getting this off on a 6. So more often than not, this is going to go off. One thing about it is, this is a good way to get to where you need to be to deal with maybe a green knight with something that's got some magical shooting. So that's handy. This does break my heart a little bit, because this used to be super wild awesome, because it used to be the unit got to do this rather than just a single character. But I'm just wish casting here, guys. But I did love the Sisters of the Thorn casting bunker just swinging from tree to tree, shooting purple suns at Rob. That was something that did bring me joy in a previous life. However, still very useful, but probably tree singing more useful, or something else as well. So
next one's you.
Oh, Flock of Doom. We got Flocka Doom. We got Magic Missile. It goes off on a 9+. It's got an 18-inch raise. Plays a small 3-inch blast template so that its central hole is directly over the center of the target enemy unit. Any enemy model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit and suffers a single strength 3 hit with an AP of -1.
Not much to crow about this, is it?
Yeah. There's better magical shooting, and I think either of the other two things are probably something you're more likely going to take, because we do know the woeful state of templates and the whole risk of being hit thing. Not so great.
I will say though, for a spell lore, it's got a pretty impactful, like the Wood Elf rules and also the spell lore already give you some pretty impactful ways to move a game around in a lot of other ways other armies don't have. Put another forest on the board, put another forest on the board via singing, then move stuff around forest is all very interesting stuff. That if you are someone who likes not just moving your guys in a straight line forward at the enemy, but likes to really mess up what the board state looks like, it's a pretty exciting book straight off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally shape the battlefield to your forest needs. If you're in a desert, doesn't matter. If you're in a dank cavern fighting some dwarves, doesn't matter. You brought your trees with you. Wood elves bring the wood. They bring the lumber, no matter where they go.
Next up, we're going to look at the special weapons that the Wood Elves gain access to, the weapons of Athel Lauren. So the most famous one, and the one that will consistently have your opponent saying, how far do they shoot, is the Asteroid longbow. For some reason, it has a 32-inch range, which is almost double pretty much the standard 18-inch shots that you generally will see. It's bananas. It's arguably dumb.
Well, versus a short bow, but your war bow is usually 24, and then but you would expect it to be 30 inches. But they get that extra 2 inches. That's all the difference.
That's all the difference. It's obviously the strength as a user with no AP, but it does have armor bane, and importantly, it has volley fire. Now, loads of your units could take these, and it's solid. And it does mean that immediately your threat range is significantly higher than most people. Well, it is higher than almost everyone's threat ranges in any way outside of war machines. So this is it. I would say the Asteroid longbow is almost like a double-edged sword for the Wood Elf book. It's iconic, and it is effectively what you think of really when you think about playing with Wood Elves or using Wood Elves if you're a Warhammer Fantasy fan. But if you would go back to that whiteboard meeting at the beginning, you would see that this is so over-egged, really, as like compared to other ballistic skill shooting that's in the game, that why wouldn't you lean into it? And then it really kind of like singularizes the book in many ways, because why would I move an infantry unit 5 inches or 4 inches for 3 turns to only move 12 when this is shooting at 32 the entire time? So I think if you were to go back to that whiteboard meeting at the beginning and say, okay, how could we reimagine Wood Elves? Maybe this is something you would say it would be limited to a single unit, but it's very good.
I mean, I think the the thing that really does spice up the Asteroid longbow is their access to what we're about to look at, Enchanted Arrows, and making them even extra spicy, and their range. I mean, their threat range is also boosted by the fact that they're elves, so they move a little faster just as a base value. But I don't know if they're super cooked because they are strength user, so therefore it's usually strength 3. So it is.
I'm not saying they're broken. What I'm saying is I think what it does,
tilting,
tilting, exactly. It really skews, and then Enchanted Arrows then add to that, right? Please, please, let's take me through them.
Let's go. We can go blow for blow on this one. So some models of the Wood Elf Realms army may have the option to purchase Enchanted Arrows. These are used in conjunction with the model's Asteroid longbow, modifying the weapon's profile as follows. Arcane Bodkins. Armor offers no protection against these ensorcelled arrows. An Asteroid longbow with Arcane Bodkins is an AP of -2. Now, what's interesting here is this was actually, I think, something that the old arrows had, which is no longer the case. Despite lots of talk about them all being magical, you will note that only specific ones, I think, have magical attacks. So despite the fact that they're all magical, only a specific one has magical attacks. So that is important.
They're all enchanted. I don't think enchantments are necessarily magic.
Oh, really?
Well,
is that just because you have such an enchanting aura yourself?
Yeah,
and that you yourself are not magical?
Correct. And I very recently went to someone who did tarot, and they were explaining a lot of stuff to me because I'm becoming a bit of a crystal mommy.
I love how crystals come in and out of style.
Me too. Me too. It was like the Middle Ages and apparently in 2010.
1980s as well. Big time for crystals. Yeah. I directed a farce called Rumors, and one of the characters was obsessed with crystals. So there you go. Neil Simon play talking about that's where I learned about crystals in grade 12, directing a very weird parlor comedy. Anyway, moving on.
But either way, Enchanted Arrows are crystal based, not magic based. I think that's correct. So AP2 is solid, obviously, but as Val's pointed out, the strength is the issue. So sure, with Armor Bane, I can be AP3. I can really punch through some good armor, but good armor normally accompanies great toughness. So wounding them's a problem. I don't necessarily have tons of shots. Hagbane tips is poison attacks. Super simple. Super popular. Again, hitting on 6s.
It's around that low strength issue.
Yeah, it gets around that. But then you have obviously the armor issue. So
because you can't get your armor bane because you don't wound.
Exactly. So you've got these double things happening here, which I think is super interesting. Like, that's a nice duality. Choose between which of the 2 6s you want to try and roll.
Yeah, I guess, exactly. Moonfire shot, glowing eerily with pale light. The touch of these arrows brings searing agony. An Asteroid longbow with Moonfire shot has the flaming attacks and magical attack special rules.
Both good and bad, right? because magical attacks great
Flaming
into
attacks,
ethereal, flaming
Yep.
attacks. Too much Gromrel armor out there for me or is it Gromrel? Whichever one it is. There's enough ward saves against fire that I don't want to be having a flaming attack weapon.
There's just so many things like that give you a bonus when hit with flaming versus a negative thing when hit with flaming. Like once upon a time, flaming took away regen saves, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this was written with that in mind, but yeah, flaming attacks tend to be probably more, on the whole, more of a liability than a benefit, unless for some reason troll hordes just suddenly started stomping through the meta and were like the #1 choice. But the dream. But yeah, the magical attacks thing is useful, but I suspect there's better sources of magical attacks than to give your unit of like Glade Guard magical attacks instead of one of the other options.
So next up, we've got Swift Shiver Shards. Not the easiest to say.
Ooh,
but they've got multi-shots too. So just to have a lot more shooting is the simple answer. Roll a lot more dice. Maybe it will go better for you. Negatives, positives. I think probably not as popular as I would expect the others to be. Because it doesn't really confer you any benefit apart from just rolling more dice, which is kind of okay. I don't know. I think it's fine, but it's not for me.
Quantity, equality, all of its own. This is, by the way, probably all been spreadsheeted for us at some place that we should have looked up to see what the most efficient thing is. But yeah, more shots can sometimes, be the thing. Swift Shiver, I know, used to be a popular choice for the multiple shots. But the one that I think was really popular used to be True Flight Arrows. But an Azrael longbow with True Flight Arrows has the ignores cover and quick shot special rules. So that means much greater reduction in negatives to hit. It is quite easy to pick up cover in Old World by obscuring your units with your own units or in terrain or or even your opponent's models can obscure units. So like it is a good thing to improve the the reliability of your shooting. And quick shot means you can move and shoot, I believe, and always stand and shoot, correct?
Correct. And for an army that really wants to evade, because it wants to evade, it wants to move, and it wants to shoot. And yes, it ignores the minimum restriction or the restriction basically on standing and shooting. So that's also good because that last ditch round of shots that you maybe can punch in as the opponent charges you is really good. But then you are giving up all the other stuff and you are just hitting stuff that's strength 3 with no AP. So really, is that enough? That's the real question. And I guess for this as well, like for Wood Elf fans or budding Wood Elf fans out there, unfortunately right now, unfortunately right now, you point up a unit of archers and you think, right, they're going to do this many shots, they're going to be strength 3, they're not going to have an AP, and then you know that the Ruby Ring of Ruin is much less points and can if you can cast it will just do more work. So it can really feel like some of the magic-based shooting that we have in the game is a little too strong at the moment versus our ballistic skill shooting in the game. So you can feel like you kind of, but obviously with Wood Elves, you can throw bad after good. You can throw your Ruby Ring, do your Fireball, and do your shots at the same time. And many other armies can't do that. They're relying on the one spell to do this. So it's quite nice. I also like this type of shooting if you get rid of like screens and chaff and little units that kind of bog up the board, or your opponent needs using to create some space for themselves, which is quite nice. It means your dragon maybe can engage their dragon better. It's kind of okay.
Yeah. Again, like a spreadsheet would help direct us to where the efficiency lies. But one thing about True Flight Arrows would be is that your base ballistic skill for the most part across the army is BS4. So as far as ballistic skill shooting goes, and it gets way higher than that too, which is awesome. So like just a shot without any obscuring, without any to hit penalties. You've got that really long range, so maybe you're not even -1 for long range. So a True Flight Arrow will help to get 2/3 of your shots to hit. So again, if you're improvements to hit often is one of the best ways to improve your chances to wound. So yeah, this is something I think not to overlook, especially if your opponent remembers the fact that cover is in fact quite easy to get. So yeah, you're moving. Basically, the only thing you have a threat that's a threat to you there is long range, and you do have quite a bit of range to work with.
You have loads. Talking about range, the range of special abilities that you've got for the Wood Elves is pretty
these are
fun.
fun.
Yeah. So
We'll
do the Forest Spites. So these are special, like Chaos, like Dwarven Runes, a bunch of other stuff. These are additional upgrades you can stick onto your characters. Do you want to take us through the first? Well, yeah, your big characters. Do you want to take us through the first one, Val?
Sure. So each sprite may only be chosen once per army is a key consideration here. And they're not magic items. So those are two conditions. The first one, Blight of Terrors, 50 points. It's a big one. Model and any unit it is joined gains the Terror special rule. That's the top pointed one.
Listen, I'm out here saying Terra's goated. I don't know what to say. I think my problem is I run an event for the old world maybe once or twice a month, right? And at least in the, most of them are sold out. So you're talking 12 games, 24 people every round. So what I end up in this situation is someone's like, yeah, my whole unit ran off the board. And then it's like next round, my whole unit ran off the board. And sure, the instances of it are they're quite small. That's what I'm trying to point out, but they feel massive when I'm like, how did your game go? They're like, yeah, my whole unit ran off the board. Terra, it just feels like it's more impactful than probably it is, but it does. I think it is really good. Really good.
When it does something, it can do big things. Yes. Terra can indeed be quite good because also it's something that you can use offensively. If you remember, you have the rule. Not looking at me.
Also, so can we shout out the fact that you get to go a bit Shakespearean and be like, I cause terror, which is fun. That's a fun thing.
All right, whatever gets you going, Robbo.
Terror.
But 50 points for Terror does feel a bit steep. That's all I'm saying. For a rule that two of the best armies in the game just completely ignore and have lots of themselves, and many other things in the game are quite resistant to it. Anything with Warband would have a high leadership, etc., etc., etc. 50 points feels a little heavy-handed. Writers, if this was 25 points, I'd think that would probably be better. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree. The Muster of Malevolence is a 40-point upgrade where Wood Elf Nobles and Waste Stalkers only. An enemy model hit by one or more shooting attack by this model's Azrael Longbow suffers additional D3 strength 2 hits with an AP of dash, but these hits have Armor Bane 1. No, I don't want that. Thank you for 40 points. Yeah, I don't want that for 40 points. I don't want it for 10 points. I'm going to throw that out there.
Why are they punking down the strength too there? I've got to say, although I've been critical right off the bat here, you know what I'm not critical of? The names of these things.
Yeah, the Muster
of Malevolence. And how about a Befuddlement of Mischiefs for 30 points? We said enough about Malevolence, I think. Seems fun. But not a for serious forest sprite, I don't think. A Befuddlement of Mischiefs, 30 points. During the combat phase, a single enemy unit that is in base contact with this model suffers a -1 modifier to both its weapon skill and initiative characteristics. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
30 points.
Yeah, now I like this one a lot. I've actually faced against this, and with the +1 initiative that you get from quick Elven reflexes,
now we're talking.
A -1. Now we're +2 versus a matchup. That your opponents are going into that and being like, yeah, I'm initiative. Most people don't check initiatives, but sometimes they do. But now being down 2 is pretty significant. I think that's quite nice. Weapon skill's also good as well because your Lord is like a crazy weapon skill. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 7, maybe 8. So like -1 to your weapon skill can also be impactful. Being hit on 5s, hitting on 2s, those sorts of things. I like this one. I think this is a good 30 points to spend.
Yeah, I think that point you made. Usually weapon skill modifiers are not the greatest because you want to see like just a blanket minus to hit. That's always going to be most effective. And there are ways to stack that with this as well to make something really annoying. But in this case, when you have like a really high weapon skill character like 7, you're going up against something that's weapon skill 4. They're probably thinking, I'm not elite, but I'm pretty damn good at swinging swords and stuff. Not so fast, buddy. You're hitting me on 5s, and I'm hitting you on 2s because you're -1 weapon skill. So when you have a big weapon skill thing yourself, just debuffing weapon skill can actually get into some breakpoints that is useful and meaningful, just like a -1 would be.
Yeah, I like that one. That one's a goodie.
Can you scroll down just a tick?
Sure, yeah. A Murder of Spites.
A Murder of Spites. 25 points. Oh, I think I've gone twice in a row, but suck it. When this model's combat is chosen during step 1 of the combat phase, a single enemy unit it is engaged with suffers D3 strength through hits, with each with an AP of -1.
No, thank you. Thank you, but no, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're okay. Come on, sprites. We can do something.
How I felt reading that. A Lamentation of Despair is 20 points. Unless this model is fleeing, enemy units that within this 6 inches of this model suffer 1 modifier to their leadership characteristic when making fear, panic, or terror tests to a minimum of 2 inches. This is obviously super cool because obviously terror gives you a -1, -2. Now you can scream terror from the top of our lungs a little bit more. But yeah, -1 to leadership characteristic, fear, panic, or terror test. The point Val makes all the time, obviously, that undead armies do ignore this section of the game, which is pretty nice. But there are not always undead armies, and you can engage this with more than you think. But yeah, it's not necessarily super strong.
Yeah, so it's very, very specific. Also, it's not going to be -2 because the terror -1 only affects when you're in combat, and this is only fear, panic, or terror tests. So it's not even. I would like if break tests were in there, then we got something. But anyway, moving on. An Annoyance of Netlings. Whilst this model is engaged in a challenge, its opponent in the challenge suffers a -1 modifier to its rolls to hit. There we go.
That's a good one.
Sounds like something useful on a dragon that is built to deny opponents points and be super annoying, hence Annoyance of Netlings. This is one that I think you do see quite a bit, an Annoyance of Netlings.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very, very good. -1 to hit is super strong. But it is only in a challenge. So I think the Befuddlement is better. And then Resplendence of Luminescence is only 10 points. This model and any unit is joined gains the magical attacks special rule. So if you do really want to have some magical attacks, there you go. Nice way to do it.
That's a very, very cheap way to get magical attacks. Hell yeah.
Love that. Okay, so now we're going to look at magic items. So you've got some ways to improve your characters. As we know, you're going to put forest on the board. You've got your own spells. You've got your own special weapons. Wood Elves is very much an army that is not a cookie cutter. It's very, very hyper specialized. And I think the items kind of also feel like that as well. So the first weapon,
you get to like really, really like customize things to your taste.
Yes. And even customize the board state to your taste. So it's fun. It's very fun. So magic weapon, first one, the Spear of Twilight, the most expensive one is 65 points. It's the strength of the user. It's got killing blow though with magical attacks at AP2. And then when this wielder of the Spear of Twilight makes a wound roll, a roll of a 3+ is always a success, regardless of the target's toughness. So very expensive, but ignoring the enemy's toughness value is obviously pretty key in a high toughness meta. I don't know if you could justify how expensive it is, but it still feels pretty good.
Of all the, I'd say, of all the very expensive, my favorite format, everyone has to take their most expensive magic item. Magic weapon. This one, I'm going to give it a solid, not boring, not bad. 65 points is a lot, especially when it's competing with the giant blade or the ogre blade. Because, you're not getting the multiple wounds here, but you are getting killing blow, which situationally there are some things out there susceptible to killing blow. So again, this is not the worst. I think if you took this, you could have some fun. But I mean, it is eating up a lot of your allocation. Blades of Loke. Blades of Loke is a combat weapon with the strength of its user. Its special rules are extra attacks plus D3, magical attacks, requires 2 hands, The wielder of the Blades of Loke may re-roll any failed rolls to wound.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, not bad. Again, not necessarily into like any big units, but making them more reliably churn through things like knights and infantry. Not a bad shout. Not too bad.
Lacking AP though. That's a bit of a pickle. But rerolls fails to wound is good. 45 points. Yeah, I think I'd take a spear over that one.
The Bow of Lauren is 40 points. It's a 32-inch, same strength as the user, with no AP, arm being one magical attack. The Bow of Lauren counts as an Asteroid longbow. The wielder of the Bow of Lauren may make a number of shooting attacks equal to their attack characteristic rather than the usual one. This model does not suffer any modifiers for firing multiple shots. So you can do a lot of shooting with this, but again, it's just an Asteroid longbow. So it's not going to do quite the impact as we've talked about. It's 40 points. And again, a Ruby Ring of Ruin is better than the Bow of Lauren. It doesn't mean you can't have both. But yeah, not bad. And also, if it's going on a character, they're going to have pretty high ballistic skill, which is pretty nice. So we love that.
Yeah. And this also suffered from a really lame FAQ answer, which just sparked in my head. So basically, if you have Enchanted Arrows, it is assumed that the model is firing only once, as is the norm. Therefore, one of the shots fired from the Bow of Lauren could be made using Enchanted Arrows. The other shots are resolved using ordinary, not Enchanted Arrows. So a bit of a womp there. I don't know why they needed to do that. I guess someone out there is getting bad touched by Wood Elves early in the edition, because they have gotten some of the most specific nerfs. Because I think because you could get a fair amount of shots off, with your Hagbane tips or what have you. Mm-hmm. Alas. As Yendi's Bane, 10 points. We've got it's another. Is this a shooting one? It is. Yeah, 32-inch range, strength user, armor bane 1, magical attacks, quick shots. As Yendi's Bane counts as an Azrae longbow, the wielder of the Yendi's Bane may reroll a single failed roll to hit made during the shooting phase. However, if the reroll fails to hit, the wielder suffers a single strength 3 hit with an AP of dash. That's a bit unfair. It's a bit unfair. If the reroll also fails to hit, the wielder suffers a single strength 3 hit with an AP of dash. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
normally you are hit. I mean, that is fairly unlikely to happen. Because I mean, a lot of these guys that can carry this thing are going to be like BS a billion. Mm-hmm. So you're basically re-rolling a sometimes better than 2+ to hit. So I don't know. I think maybe okay. Just to guarantee that shot is there and that you're not rolling the 1 when you really need it. Yeah.
It's not for me, but there it is. Magic
10
armor.
points though.
Yeah, for sure. Magic armor. Your first one we get is the Helm of the Hunt, which is 50 points. Maybe worn with other armor. The wearer of the Helm of the Hunt improves their armor value by 1 to a maximum 2+. Uh-huh. In addition, the wearer has a +1 modifier to both their weapon skill and the attack's characteristic during a turn in which they charge. So that's pretty fun. +1 attack, +1 weapon skill, +1 to your save. Now we know that we could also reduce their weapon skill if we wanted to, which is pretty nice. So that's nice. The Helm of the Hunt. I think that's pretty fun, especially +1 to your save is very good. So yeah, not too bad.
And it's also improving your armor value by 1. In addition to its sort of charge buffs. This one seems interesting. It is expensive, so 50 points. So it maybe doesn't make the cut just because of the fact that it's taking away some of your offensive firepower, perhaps. But still allows you to tank up your Glade Lord on a dragon. Raelarian's Mantle, 35 points. Raelarian's Mantle is a suit of light armor. In addition, whilst this armor is within 6 inches of woodland terrain feature, they have a 4+ ward save against any wounds suffered for 35 points, you say.
Very nice, especially for that feels good. That feels good. You can put woods around. You can fight near woods. You can plan where you're going to fight. It doesn't feel too terrible. The light armor bit sucks.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the 4+ ward. Would have loved to see this as something casters could use. So you could stash your caster with a nice ward in a forest somewhere. That would have been cool. But overall, not bad. Especially if you're using, say, like your bring it from home forest in the middle of the board as like the place that you're planting your flag and defending. That'd be good. Yeah, moving on. Talismans.
First ones we got is Mercury's Locust, which is 35 points. The strength characteristic of the bearer of the Locust cannot be modified by any weapon. However, the strength characteristic of any model that directs its attacks against the bearer during the combat phase cannot be modified by any weapon either. So it's it's a nice, interesting defensive buff depending on what they've got. Especially, obviously, if you're riding a giant mount, then if they've got something to try and make it so they can wound the mount, that feels quite positive. But obviously, their mount is also normally quite high strength. So I think this is kind of like halfway there, but also not halfway there. So I think this is not the best.
Yeah, it is. I mean, with a lot of great weapons out there, delivering those high strength things, you're gonna want to also have your toughness buffed up from toughness 3 if you're using this. Interesting. Glamour Weave, 30 points. Enemy models must make a leadership test before making any rolls to hit against the wearer of the Glamour Weave during the combat phase. If this test is failed, any rolls of a natural 6 will hit. Only rolls of a natural 6 will hit. That's interesting. So this is like what's the vampire power? Beguile. Yeah. I think that is identical to Beguile, actually. It's a very nice brooch. An entrancing brooch.
I don't hate that though. I know that like the leadership test is more likely going to be passed, but when it's not, like it's 30 points. It's getting into give it a shot territory.
Tis. Also, if you're remembering to make them take that leadership test.
Oh yeah, that's maybe why you're less bothered about it.
Aside from the fear and terror stuff, Glamour, this is, if you're immune to psych, there's nothing here that's giving you any relief from that. So like, it's just, you've got to make the leadership test no matter what.
Yeah.
So if you're never scared of anything, you can be blown away by the abject beauty of this brooch.
Okay. So we're going to move into magic standards now. And the first one, the most expensive one, is not too spenny. It's only 40 points. The Banner of the Wildwood. A unit carrying the Banner of the Wildwood gains the Fear special rule. If the unit already has the Fear special rule, it instead gains the Terror special rule. They really love Terror. They love Terror.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Cheaper way to get Terror too if you do already have Fear. We'll have to see what units can take that and cause Fear. Banner of the Hunter King, 25 points. Ooh, very efficient. A unit carrying the Banner of the Hunter King gains the Vanguard special rule.
Nice.
That's very nice. 25 points. That's super handy.
It's quite a few units, so that's really nice on.
Yeah, and also something to bear in mind is that the like a banner that gives the unit Vanguard means that if a character is included in that unit and does not have Vanguard, because the unit is being granted Vanguard, not the unit has Vanguard, it can make the Vanguard move. Because if a character joins a unit that has Vanguard but they don't have it, they can't do the Vanguard move with them. But this would let them do that, which is very handy.
Also means if you really want to, you could just put a big unit while riders on the board, Vanguard them up like the first turn, hope you get the roll and just crash into the enemy lines. Is it a good decision? No. Don't do that.
I wonder if Wild Riders already have it. Do they already have it?
They might have Vanguard. But either not, or as an example, a cavalry unit or something fast.
Yeah. Anything, yes.
Yeah. So then the Banner of the Eternal Queen is 20 points. When calculating the combat result of a unit carrying a Banner of the Eternal Queen, may claim additional bonus, a +1 combat result point if it's within 6 inches of woodland terrain. So it's kind of like other people's banners, just worse. It's situational. You actually see this across all of Games Workshop's products when it comes towards Wood Elf stuff. They give the same buff they would give to another army, but they always add the stipulation must be near a forest. So it's almost instinctively worse because like there's a stippy attached.
Yeah, it does have a stippy, but there's no reason why you couldn't have a BSB with this and a war banner with the standard of the unit. So that way you're getting 2 extra combat res, and maybe you've cast a forest nearby, or you have the forest that you brought with you from home. So, I mean, I'm not at least the stippy that these guys always have, which is you got to be near or in a forest. at least they do give you ways to always happen to have a forest nearby. That's nice.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah. It's a bonus. It's a bonus.
There you go. Banner of Midsummer's Eve, 15 points. Our friend Puck coming out here. Just a little shout out to Shakespeare. We got a unit carrying the Banner of Midsummer's Eve. Gains the. Please scroll down.
Ignore cover special rule.
Ignore cover special rule. Interesting. So that's a lot. That's a big chunk of the benefit that you get from the ignores cover and
arrows.
One of the magic arrows. Classic me remembering things. So for 15 points, so you can combine that and you get a lot of. You just don't get quick shot, but you do get the benefits of one of the arrow selections.
Which means you can choose the other arrow selection.
Yeah, which means you can choose another one. I think that's pretty damn good.
Definitely a massive shooting bunker available via that. But is that how you want to play? Do you want to have a big shooting bunker that someone can run over and charge? Find out soon. Okay, then we got enchanted items. The first one is Wraithstone, that's 50 points. Unless the bearer of the Wraithstone is fleeing, enemy units suffer a -1 modifier to leadership characteristic to a minimum of 2 whilst within 6 inches of the bearer. Oh my god. You could really stack some minus leadership modifiers around this and do some fun stuff. Maybe that's what they thought that they were doing. They were like, oh, they're going to take a Wraithstone. They're going to make it so there's -1 to panic terror and thingies checks, and they're going to do some stuff. Maybe that's what they were hoping for. That's why everything's pointed high for terror. The idea of wood elves emerging from the forest to slaughter you with their hippie ways. Yeah,
that's right. With their love of nature.
It's too expensive though. So
yeah, too expensive. Definitely too expensive. Also, big stippy on this one. Within 6 inches, that's pretty danger close for a wood elf, I'd say. Moving on to Hail of Doom, the Hail of Doom arrow, which is one of our first common item, I guess. 30, so you can bring more than one of these. 35 points, single use, models with Asteroid longbow only. A Hail of Doom arrow can be fired as normal from the bearer's Asteroid longbow. If the roll to hit is successful, place a small 3-inch blast template so the central hole is directly over the center of the target unit. Any model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit and suffers a single strength 4 hit with an AP of -1 and the magical attack special rule.
Not quite what it once was when it was a disaster back in the day, but still something fun. Like, this is important as well. Let's remember that factor. This is a fun, cool thing. Get to fire off. It's way better than a pigeon bomb. No offense to pigeon bomb fans.
So on the is it fun or not list of things, more fun than a pigeon bomb, Hundo P. It can't actually just hurt you most of the time. So that's great. Also, for whatever reason, it's a higher strength shot, and is AP -1 and with magical attack. So that's pretty good. Just of course, sort of brought down by the limits of the 3-inch blast template and such. Yeah.
Wailing Arrow is 20 points. Again, it's a common magic item. It's a single use, models with the Asteroid longbow only. A Wailing Arrow can be fired as normal from the bearer's Asteroid longbow. Any unit that suffers an unsafe wound from this shot must make a panic test as if it would take heavy casualties. If it wasn't single use, if it was like every time this unit shoots at a unit, takes a panic test, I'd be pumped. I'm a cheeky wood elf guy myself in my brain, and I like the idea of just being like, oh, you take that test, and most of the time them being like, well, I don't care, but they might care. And again, it's not what it once was. Like, you're not gonna flee, you're just gonna Fabigo, but still.
If you're on, again, very long range, that if that unit's on the edge of the board, that could be a disastrous Fabigo. So that's cool. My big bummer on this one is it's only if it's an unsaved wound. So your single strength 3 shot has to cause an unsaved wound to get your once panic check per. I mean, that's a mean stipulation. This on a hit that would have been cooler. Arcane items. Deepwood Sphere, 45 points. All right, here we go. Arcane items. These are always fun. Here we go. Unless the bearer of the Deepwood Sphere is fleeing or engaged in combat, they may use it when an enemy wizard that is within 6 inches of a woodland terrain feature successfully casts a spell. If they do so, no dispel attempt can be made, and the spell is cast as normal. Once the spell has been resolved, the enemy wizard immediately suffers D3 strength 4 hits, each with an AP of -1. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Tell me about the oaken stave. That's good.
You don't like the Deepwood Sphere? Okay. The oaken stave
45 points for once per game. You get hit by whatever they're casting for maybe one strength 4 hit with an AP of -1.
Wow, it's D3, it might be 2. Oaken stave is 40 points.
Whilst
within 3 inches of a woodland terrain feature, the bearer of the oaken stave increases the dispel range from 3 inches additionally, whilst within 3 inches of woodland terrain feature, the bearer may roll an extra d6 for making a dispel roll and discard the lowest result. Obviously,
this is very, very good.
Yeah, it's very solid. Additional range and shutting down enemy spells for 40 points. I think that's a no-brainer, right?
That's right. I think this one, having just faced it, it's I think quite a big deal. Pardon me, that extra dice can really help improve your dispel attempts. Also, the extra 3-inch range, when you combine it with the fact that a lot of the times you can get reserve move on your caster, allows you to sort of make sure that you're at the end of the shooting phase, you can bounce back to 27 inches, be out of them dispelling you, but within range of your dispels. So that's a really good one. And again, you can bring your forest with you, and being able to bounce backwards also allows you to make sure you're out of range for them to dispel your forest that you maybe just cast.
Yeah, I
think oaken stave, super useful.
I think one of the most important elements here is that one of the big threats, fireball to the wood elves at 24, means that if you could do your measuring correctly, you could be in dispel range before they can even move into fireball range and kind of keep that distance, which I think is super healthy. You need that. Because that will rip them to pieces. Every time I play wood elves and I throw a fireball into their army, I'm like, "Do you get a save?" And they're like, bro, it's just gonna die." So that's quite good, I think. Right then, the next one's yours.
Wand of the Witch Elm, 30 points. Once per term, if they're within 3 inches of a woodland terrain feature, the bearer of the Wand of Witch Elm may reroll a failed casting roll.
Yeah,
all right,
that's not bad either. I don't mind re-rolling it.
Yep. Yeah, re-roll. This is super handy with I know orcs. When I was playing orcs and goblins, they have a couple of options to take a re-roll to cast. Very useful. I mean, you probably got a lot of probably elfish rhymes with selfish players out there moaning that the high elves just get this baked in, not for 30 points. But hey, that's all right. Useful, but I'd say you want to take your oaken stave first for sure.
Yeah, I want to take the oaken stave as well, especially because I think anti-magic is far more impactful than your magic. It's kind of like a silly thing to say because obviously, but I think shutting down their magic is really valuable. So that's what I'm trying to get at. So with all that said and done, only an hour into this review, a true deep dive, we are going to be looking at the different units. So first one is the Wood Elf Noble. Don't think you can only have one of these per 1,000 points. And that crazy ballistic weapon skill 7 and ballistic skill 7. That's important because we talked about that weapon skill stuff earlier. Leadership 10. The Glade Lord as well. Very nice. Very nice. For attacks. Very nice. But it is toughness 3, strength 4, initiative 6. So as a frontline melee fighter, he does lack in both strength and also toughness. And he's only 3 wounds. Something to be conscious of. Comes equipped with light armor and obviously can have all of the different types of weapons, all the different items. Yeah, can get 50 points of forest sprites as well. Special rules though, we got the Arrow of Kurnos, evasive. And now evasive is really important. Arrow of Kurnos, evasive, fire and flee. That one. Ignores cover. Now ignores cover is also great as well. Move through cover is also great. Rallying cry and strike first. But does not apply to the mount, obviously. So the Arrow of Kurnos, once deployment is complete, but before roll off to determine which player takes the first turn, the general of your opponent's army is within 36 inches of one or more models in your army. That's a special rule. One of those models may fire the Arrow of Kurnos. If the Arrow of Kurnos is fired, the general of your opponent's army immediately suffers a strength 3 hit with no armor or regen saves allowed. However, if the Arrow of Kurnos is fired and your opponent adds +1 to the roll, when rolling off to determine who takes the first turn. So thematic and cool, not necessarily strong.
Yeah, I'm noticing a theme here that I don't think I appreciated how much the Wood Elves got kind of hamstrung. They've got a lot of weird conditional rules that have a lot of big downsides. I sympathize more with Wood Elf. I've kind of actually been confused because this notably in our friend Ed did a tier ranking of the competitive level of factions after the Renegade pack, and he did rank Wood Elves bottom, like alone at the bottom after the Renegade pack. And I thought that can't be. But maybe it's a death by 1,000 arrows here with all these restrictions
that don't hit anything.
Yeah.
So
well, I don't know. I feel like they can still hit
it's
stuff.
also so it's worth pointing out that you've got evasive, which is nice. So if you're targeted in the shooting phase by any attacks like screams, which Val also knows,
screams.
So you're going to be able to move away, which is very nice. That's a really nice way of moving your unit around the board. Fire and Flee is also kind of interesting as well, although not that great, but it's interesting to have on there as well. Make a shooting attack, move away. And your classic rallying cry. But I would say ignores cover and moves through cover are pretty valuable elements, especially moves through cover. So that feels pretty nice. And obviously you can mount one of these badasses on a variety of different things. So if I just scroll down, we can see that you're going to be able to mount them on the character mounts an elven steed, a great stag, a warhawk, a forest dragon. That's for the Glade Lord only. Or a great eagle. So the elven steed is unsurprisingly a movement 9 horse with swift stride. A great stag adds +1 toughness to toughness 4, +1 wound to 4 wounds. Is monstrous cav, and then is 50 points more. Gives you 1 stomp attack, 1 impact hit, movement 8 with swift stride. Armored hide 2.
Very good.
Armored hide 2 is pretty great. Stack that with your armor saves. That's what armored hide does. It stacks with your armor saves, so you can have a pretty tough character, which is nice. And you also get the Crown of Antlers attack, which is nice. You can also go on a unicorn, which gives you movement 10 swift stride for 35
I don't know if the
points.
Glade Lord. I don't know if the Glade Lord can do it.
On
the unicorn, I think that's the spell. I think that's the spell singer.
I think that's rude, I'd say, but probably
you went past it.
No, I'm just looking. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm uncomfortable with that. Why?
Well, unicorns are magical. They're for the spellcasters usually.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm disappointed.
You just went by it again.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, though. I looked at it.
Okay.
You're right. Okay, so if not, we can put it on a Warhawk.
Okay.
For +1 toughness. Now, this is going to be fly 10 with swift stride.
Yeah.
So very fast. It's only 30 points.
How's this fair?
Very fast. You happy with that? Do you like that? Is that what you want?
I don't know. Warhawk's cool. Warhawk's cool. Probably better for a caster, I think.
Yeah, and I'm just going to very slowly scroll down to a dragon.
Aha. Okay. Okay. The forest dragon.
The forest dragon down
Coming
here.
back, by the way, you can get the old school plastic and metal forest dragon. Not the chaos one, but you can get the forest one. Which is cool. This is coming back.
There are some insanely beautiful wood elf dragons out there that with wood elf glade characters to paint up. Can't get that one from Games Workshop. That's outrageous. So this wood elf dragon is only going to add +3 to your toughness and give you 6 wounds. So you're going to have 9 wounds. You're going to go up to toughness 6. Itself has got 6 attacks at strength 7. It's got fly 10. It's got swift strike, causes terror, does D6 stomp attacks. It's wicked claws at AP 2, and it's pretty much a standard dragon.
I think he's got a really good weapon skill too. His weapon skill 6. I don't know if is that standard? It might be standard. He's very strong. This is a lovely dragon. What a lovely dragon!
It's just a lovely dragon. But obviously, there's nothing in this book that you can build that is as good as the Glade Lord on the dragon. It's your most, it's your fastest. Well, is it your fastest? It's not your biggest range projection because that'll be your longbows, but it's the fastest, punchiest unit you have in this book. So get yourself one. Is the TLDR?
Yep, and also I think it's interesting because a dragon can already pick its fights pretty good, but this one can evade, it can fire and flee, it can do all kinds of fun stuff to make it very annoying to pin down if you don't want it to engage. So yeah, I think it's also you can make it very hard to hit. it's definitely a different archetype of dragon, but obviously very good in a key first piece to start building for this army.
Also, important point to note is that it's a dragon that will not fight the Chaos Dragon. So its job is to avoid that fight and go and fight the others. There's like the artifact that you have so that you can be -1 to hit in combat. I think the math is you still just always lose the fight. So like you've got to try and pick up all of their points while avoiding that fight if you get the chance, which is kind of an interesting place that we found ourselves in, that even if you have a dragon, maths is you don't beat the other dragon most of the time. So
I think, but it can be a very frustrating dragon to fight though, especially in challenges and stuff. Yeah, a perfectly cromulent dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And in a points denial army, a toughness 6, 9 wound, can move 1 billion and never give up those points if you don't want to. Pretty good, useful, with an 18-inch bubble of leadership 10. Yeah. Also very nice.
Yeah, leadership 10 is fantastic, I'd say. Especially because if you don't know, chat, most people don't take BSBs.
Yeah.
So it's just a straight, normal, flat out 10 up, say, like 10 up roll. That's it, which I think is interesting. Do you want to take us through the pages?
Yes, we got the Spell Weaver. That's your top casting choice. It's got an elfish stat line, movement 5, weapon skill and ballistic skill 4, strength and toughness 3, 3 wounds, initiative 4, 2 attacks, leadership 8, 155 points. And then the junior version just has 1 less attack, no big deal. The Spellweaver can take battle magic, elementalism, high magic, or illusion. Real nice set of options there for casters. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no notes on that one though. If you could only have 4, I don't know if you could pick a better 4.
No, not at all.
They're very, very good. Mm-hmm. And then there's really, we got standard loadouts for magic weapons and stuff. Can they take one of the befuddlements, one of the sprites? Can they take any sprites?
They cannot take a befuddlement. They cannot take a spite, no, which is a bit of a shame. But one of the things that I think is stronger than it sounds is move through cover, because you're putting your own forest out, and when you only have 3 wounds on your 200 plus mage, I don't want to lose one to a forest. Like, I don't.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yes. Yes. Very, very fair point. They have special rules, pretty limited here. Elven reflexes, Lore of Athel Lorn, magical attacks, move through cover. So yeah. Built-in magical attacks. Is that something I've never noticed on any of the other casters? They just have automatic magical attacks?
I don't think they do.
I have no idea. I wonder.
But it does make sense that they do.
And a little cheeky 15 points for a 6-up ward. Look at that.
Yeah. Not too bad, but not the best. So yeah, good caster, but you've got a great item to make your caster a good anti-caster, which I like. I think that's good.
Yes.
And like you said, good access to your different battle magic or your different spell laws, especially because we will soon be doing a revisited look at the spell laws.
Yeah, actually,
it keeps Val awake at night. So we got to revisit.
It genuinely does. If I'm ever riding too high in my horse, I just go back and listen to the Magic episode and be like, good God.
Yeah.
Good God.
Good God. All right. So next up, we're going to look at a Shadow Dancer, right? It's kind of a hybrid unit. It's 85 points. Lovely. It's weapon skill 8. Let's go. With 3 attacks, but also ballistic skill 6, which is worth noting. Strength 4, toughness 3, only 2 wounds. Standard comes with a hand weapon and can have access to battle magic and illusion.
Interesting.
It can take forest spites up to 50 points and could be a level 1 wizard. It's got evasive, which, as we've talked about, is very solid. Furious charge, immune to psychology. It's a loner, move through cover, strike first, talismanic tattoos, and the Troubadour of Lowick, which is the Shadow Dancer that joins a unit of war dancers. It's considered to have the Dance of Lowick. Special rule for as long as they remain with the unit, which we talked about earlier. And in combat,
that's interesting. So they only get it when they're in the unit. All right.
Yeah, and you can still take other forest spirits as well. Forest spites. Sorry, forest spites. I keep calling spirits.
Sprites.
They're spites.
Yeah.
No R.
They're spites?
They're spites.
They're not sprites?
No.
Huh.
This is it. These, look, okay. All right, let's re-record the whole thing. Let's re-record the whole thing.
I fact-checked you in real time. They are indeed forest spites. I almost corrected you when you said spites earlier, but I have instead been saying the wrong thing. Hoisted by my own petard.
I didn't want to correct you. I thought it was mean. So
2026 deep dive of the Wood Elves coming soon to correct this horrible misspeak.
Anyway, strength +1 with killing blow and armor bane 1 and AP armor bane 2 AP 1 for the spear of Loic, and the trickster's blade's got extra attacks T3, requires 2 hands, which I quite like. But we'll talk about War Dancers later. Listen, when we see a glow up for infantry, I'm moving straight to the Wood Elf book. I think it's got the juice. It just, infantry doesn't have the juice right now. Anyway, I like the Shadow Dancer. It's a hybrid unit that's meant to orientate itself around War Dancers. Are War Dancers good? No. Are infantry good? No. There we go. Does that make sense? So we can move on from this right now. Go on.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, I would love for that character. Like, War Dancer's already an expensive, squishy unit, which we'll see. But has uses, I think, has play. But 85 points to give them a bit of a side grade, and then they're charging you to be a level 1. That's a bit mean. So yeah, probably not a smash, but a pass. However, the Waystalker, Rob.
Yes.
Now here's a guy. The Waystalker, of course, unlocks Waywalkers, or whatever the rare shooting guys are. Movement 5, weapon skill 6, BS 7, strength 4. So that makes his arrows stronger too, which is great. Toughness 3, 2 wounds, initiative 5, 2 attacks, leadership 8, 85. They may take an additional hand weapon. They can, of course, take all the fancy arrows.
Mm-hmm.
They can take forest spites. May have the ambushers rule, and may take up to 50 points of magic items. So this might be where you put one of the magical bows, maybe not. Elven reflexes, evasive, feign flight, fire and flee, hawk-eyed archer, ignores cover, move through cover, scouts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
a lot of options.
So it's got scouts, and so you're probably not even going to bother buying ambushers. You got scouts built in, baby. Hawk-eyed archer means a model with a special rule can target any enemy character can draw a line of sight to, regardless of the usual rules for targeting lone characters. That's handy. In addition, a model with this special rule can target a specific model within its target unit, such as a champion or a character. So punking the champion of a unit is super useful if you have a dragon that loves to get locked into a challenge, or don't want to be locked in a challenge,
yeah, exactly.
but you want to challenge.
Shoot out the champion, charge in with the dragon is a great combo that many armies do not gain access to.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's very cool.
So Waystalker, very useful piece in its own right, and then also unlocks what I think is a pretty good unit, or at least a unit I want to be good, because I really liked them before. So we'll see if I like them now.
Which unit?
The
Deep Scouts?
No, the other one. There's 2. There's a special and a rare shooter. The rare shooters are
Waywatchers.
Waywatchers?
Mm-hmm.
Waywatchers.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, I like this. I think that's good. I think the Hawk-eyed Archer is also fun and engaging. Also, no, we don't have time for it, but I'd love to go to bat for the ambush special rule, but we'll do that in another show. Right, Treeman Ancient. I'm going to go 265 points for a toughness 6, strength 5, move 5 with a 4-up armor save dude with battle magic, elementalism as options. Can be a level 3 or a level 4. Level 4 is going to make this 325 points. Can take forest spites up to 100 points as well, which is a lot, but doesn't gain access to taking any magic items, which I think is a bit of a womp in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It is a womp.
Yeah, but it's got close order, flammable, immune to psychology, large target. It's got the access to Law of Athel Lauren, magical attacks, move through cover, regeneration 5-up, D3 stomp attack, stubborn, terror, timber, tree spirit, and tree whack. Now, I like the Treeman Ancient. In my initial review, I was anti the Treeman Ancient. And I do think he will just get punked with a dragon. That's for sure. But what I like about him is making my level 4 a fucking bitch to kill. And then it does paint a target on his back, for sure.
Yeah.
It paints a target there, cannonballs, a bunch of other stuff. But you do have a lot of ways of creating forest and blocking line of sight a bit, and keeping him kind of alive, and he can throw himself into combat, which I think is kind of fun. I would like to try out a Treeman Ancient actually as my level 4. Because level 4 always something someone guns for, right? They're like, I'm going to go get that. That's easy points. You need one. I need one. Let's kill each other's level 4s. Makes it a little bit more survivable. That's kind of okay. So what's your leadership 10? What a gangster.
Yeah. I'm okay. So first of all, don't know if this would ever fit all together, but the dragon plus this guy plus a level 4. This allows you to get maybe 2 level 4 casters. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that could possibly work. I don't know how expensive the dragon actually gets to once he's all kitted out. But it feels like it'd be close if you had sort of a cheap level 4. And then this guy, I do like him even just as a level 2 on Battle Magic, because then you can just give him Hammer Hand, and then whatever else he rolls up, maybe he gets Fireball or Pillar of Fire. Level 2, you know, that's a free ruby ring right there. You know, and that, so at 265, not the worst.
He's also got Tree Whack as well, and so his D3 attacks at Strength 5 with no armor saves is a much more reliable Tree Whack to happen, which I think is quite nice. So, you know, and yeah, I quite like that. I quite like him. I don't think he's like, listen, ultimately, like, we're in a game where the dragons are just so much better than anything. But I think he's good. Like, and if you saw him like walking, you'd be like, oh, fuck, that's actually that's a challenging thing to deal with, I'd say, especially as he's not going forward. Like,
doesn't have to. Yeah, he doesn't
have to. You've got like that ranged advantage, so you don't need to send him, which I think is quite interesting. So I like the Treeman Ancient. I think he's got vibes.
I think if you take him stock, I think you know, there's an argument to be made there. I think too. I want to like him. Certainly seems like a fun piece. I will give him that. He's not boring.
Do you want to take us to the Branch Wraith?
The Branch Wraith. A model that was also returned. The movement 5, weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 6, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 wounds, initiative 6, 2 attacks, leadership 8, 80 points. Here's another level 1 wizard. Here's a level 1 wizard that can upgrade to a level 2. So that's interesting. So amongst our tree spirits, we have our big caster and little caster. That's nice. They can take a great weapon. That's handy. Or an additional hand weapon. Can take 50 points of spites. They have fear, flammable, immune to psych, lore of Athel Lauren, magical attacks, move through cover, regen 6+, and tree spirit. So this is someone that might hop into your unit of dryads.
Yeah. You could go for more of a tree spirit build, which I think is interesting. But I think ultimately, like, do you really often see low level wizards moving around? No, because they just can't really compete. So I think maybe you probably just won't see this, but maybe see it as a like a little caddy for a classic ruby ring, dare I say.
Yeah, it could be a ruby ring. You know, the level 2 again at 30 points, getting, you know, it's a bit tricky. Anything that could take battle magic and might wind up in combat, like this particular one would, because especially if it was in a unit. You know, again, a little chance for a cheeky hammer hand. That's nice.
Yeah, I would. I also would like to see some sort of synergy or integration actually with dryads as well, which we aren't getting there, which I think is a miss.
That's one of the sticky situations that Wood Elves find themselves in, is that a good chunk of their range are in fact, this is actually kind of like Night Goblins. A good chunk of their range are in fact the Sylvaneth from AOS, and so the plastic, you know, the plastic treemen, the plastic dryads. Those are all sort of range locked to AOS, so you don't get a big focus on them too in the rules here for some reason.
Which I think is disappointing for sure.
Bit of a bummer.
Okay, right. We're gonna start looking at our units, our characters. Okay, well, our characters are our units. So
our units, big units.
Our necessary unit that we have to take is a unit of Glade Guard. No,
Glade Guard.
Glade Guard.
Yeah, Glade Guard.
Glade Guard. Okay, so expensive. 11 points. Per dude. Only strength and toughness 3. Importantly, you'll notice 0 armor.
Ooch.
Oh, no armor. That stings. Is weapon skill 4 and ballistic skill 4. Obviously, they can have Azrael. They have Azrael longbows. You can take all of the different enchanted arrows. And then a full command, you can have Fire and Flee, Vanguard, or you could take a magic standard. And the Glade Guard have elven reflexes, move through cover, and open order. If you compare them to their Deepwood Scout brethren, who are 13 points, 2 points more, you don't get any better ballistic skill. You do get all leadership, but they have elven reflexes, evasive, fire and flee, move through cover, scout, and skirmishers. Which obviously skirmishers are pretty nice because obviously if you're being shot at, that helps you out. But no armor save. How do you feel about that?
So already, so Deepwood Scouts, which I think you can take 1 or 2 of as a core option in an army.
One as a core.
Maybe 1 per 1,000. Anyway, but they for 1 extra point, which they already have fire and flee, which you'd pay for on the other guys. They have scouts, which is probably better than Vanguard. So yeah, Deepwood Scouts are awesome. Yeah, you're right. They are more expensive, and then they get even more expensive because obviously you're taking some arrows, right? So you're gonna be paying for the arrows there. True Flight, a little bit of a bargain there at 1 point per model, I think, especially if you're planning on being far away and behind stuff. But yeah, the popular Arcane Bodkins, Hagbane Tips, getting you up to 13 points. Yeah, these guys are getting spendy. Is there an option to upgrade their armor? Not even.
No, not even. I mean, the play, I guess, is obviously you have a battle magic wizard, and then you're gonna be able to get a 5. Well, most of the time you're gonna be able to get a 5-up ward save on these boys, which is nice. But when I'm looking at 13 points, 12 to 13 points a model, I don't want that. Is all I'm going to say. So this is definitely where not even a cheeky light armor to make everyone happy, and that's why Fireball is just so impactful on this unit, or a Pillar of Fire, or any of these other things. Is they just get rinsed, absolutely rinsed. Not even a hope of a roll, and they're just too expensive in their roll. Like if you think about it, you get several goblins. Or how many goblins do I get? Do I get 4 goblins per Wood Elf Archer?
I think a goblin, I believe, is 3 points if you haven't given them anything extra. So yeah, you're getting at least 3 goblins, maybe 4,
maybe 3 or 4 goblins,
probably 4 or 5, depending on how you get them out per guy. You're raising some interesting points. I will counter though; it does have a very low unit size. So like you can take them in lots of MSU units. And that is something that gets you a lot more mileage out of the Lord's Bowman upgrade as well, because you can have a bunch of the champions that have that extra ballistic skill. So there's that. And, spamming out as many small units as you can does mean that, that fireball's not going as far. It might nuke 1 unit, but you're not going to nuke all, I guess, how many? In our format, what could you do? You could do not 9-ish, maybe a bit more, depending on how you rule the making something core, which I think we rule it that it can be up to 6. So you can probably get to around 12 of these units combined between the Deepwood Scouts and the Glade Guard. That's kind of that's a lot of single units.
Yeah, for sure. Loads of little units, but if they get touched, they die, which I think is interesting. And maybe why we're seeing that leadership 10 bubble that's able to like push around, maybe keep them alive a little bit more. Stop them running.
Are they skirmishers? Are they both skirmishers or just the
Deepwood Scouts?
Okay, because that does give them the -1 to be hit because they are strength 1, so that's something. But that doesn't help you against a fireball. Yeah, all right. I'm starting to understand a lot more about woodies and their challenges. This is interesting. Cool.
Yeah. Is that they read as if they might do a lot from the shooting, and then when you math it out, it's quite bad versus magic shooting, and then they have no survivability, which I think is apart from that dragon, obviously. And other stuff, which we'll get to. Eternal Guard, I'm going to bat for these. I love these guys. I'm just going to say it. TLDR, Rob's favorite. 13 points a model, though, hurts me, but they do have light armor, so here we go. Their weapon skill 5 an initiative 4, so Elven Reflexes are going to be 5 on the charge. Well, first round of combat. They do have the Asteroid Spears as well, which is super fun. They are AP 1, and they fight in an extra rank, and a model wielding an Asteroid Spear cannot make a supporting attack during a turn in which it charged. During a turn in which it was charged in its front art, a model wielding an Asteroid Spear gains +1 modifier to its initiative against a charging unit, which means +2 to its initiative, taking them up to initiative 6 when they do get charged, which I think is a vibe. And then they have Close Order, Elven Reflexes,
and an AP as well. It's a spear with an AP. So that's good.
And then they've got Martial Prowess, Move Through Cover, and they've got Stubborn. So, and you can give them Drilled, you can give them Veteran. Now the light armor means they do just get ripped to pieces, obviously. Right, so I would have, and they do have armor on. The model has armor. They have a shield, which obviously you can take a shield, so you can go to a 5 up
14
save.
Points model.
Yeah,
14 points a model.
That's incredibly expensive. But I do like the if they could just have like heavy armor and a shield, I think these guys would be solid. Charge them. They're super high initiative. They do a ton of attacks back. Then they just stubborn. And then they fight you again. You can counter charge. Like they feel like the perfect porcupine unit to be charged, apart from either the points or the armor save.
Yeah, you're gonna have to definitely layer in some sort of magical support here to get them a ward or something. And luckily, you do have some options in the magical lores you have access to, so that's good. Would love a brick of these guys to be interesting, but at the same time, if you want to brick up, and you don't really get much in the way of defendability, why not just go with a big brick of Glade Guard that you got to take anyway, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I want to like Eternal Guard too. I think that is. Don't get me wrong, and maybe you could have fun with them. Maybe they are very expensive, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised you didn't use your normal complaint about elite infantry, which is 1 attack. Real tricky there.
Well,
but if they're drilled, at least you can line them out.
It's because of the fighting extra rank, like that you get from the spear, is what I was thinking. So that's why I'm a little bit like okay on it. But yeah, they're just going to get ripped to pieces. But again, with infantry changes, I'd come back to look at this unit.
One good thing too about fighting extra rank that is important to point out is that it's the entire what's the dumb word for the entire front rank that's fighting
rank.
Fighting rank. So the entire fighting rank, whether or not it's in base to base, gets supporting attacks. So when you do stretch them out into a nice long thin line, the entirety of this, so it's like double line hammer when you have supporting attacks, which is
kind of good.
Yeah, and drilled is super powerful, but I mean, that's another 2 points. Like it's us up to what, 14 or 15 points a model?
Yeah, it's very expensive.
It's harsh.
Do you want to take us through Wildwood Rangers?
I'd love to, Rob. Movement 5, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 4, strength toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 4, at 1 attack, leadership 9, 14 points a model. That comes with close order, elven reflexes, guardians of the Wildwood, immune to psych, move through cover, immune to psych. Yeah, that means they can never run away, guys. So that's something. And then they have Ranger's Glaives, which we'll see below, which I believe is just a non-strikes last great weapon. They come with light armor. That's nice. They can take shields. So these guys could have shields, even though I don't think their models do. And so yeah, Wildwood, and the Warden can take magic items. There you go. Okay, and then the Guardians of the Wildwood. Whilst it is in base contact with an enemy model that causes fear or terror, a model with the special rules can +1 modifier to its attacks characteristic to a maximum of 10, and the multiple wounds 2 special rule. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, see what I mean? Like that's a good shifting, and it's also so opposite what you see from the spear unit. This is a dual kit with the spear unit as well.
Yes.
So I think that's super fun. Definitely an option. Requires 2 hands. Their initiative 4, Elven Reflex is initiative 5.
And then, so just as a quick comparison, Eternal Guard, these guys don't have really any extra upgrades. So if we scroll up a little tickety boo. How much were the Eternal Guards probably going to be? If you want them to be drilled, there'll be 14 points a model probably. 15 points a model. So Wildwood Rangers, I'm giving these guys the edge. Are they special or rare these days?
They're special, I think.
No, so special. I think if you want to brick someone up, they don't have drilled though. That's a problem. I think if you want to break something up, this feels better because there's a lot of, especially things that, and then we see the stipulation on Guardians of the Wildwood. Whilst it is in base contact with an enemy model that causes it's a model by model.
Each model, a model with a special rule gains plus 1 modifier to its attack characteristic to a maximum of 10. Yeah, I guess it is model by model, unfortunately. That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'll tell you this much. I think I would, if I wanted to find my big brick of combat dudes, I feel like these are a better deal.
That's my take. Charge. You can flank charge a dragon. You're fast enough.
I'm
happen. Sure of it.
Sure. Yeah, you've got stuff that can hold a dragon in combat for more than one turn.
Right, so we need to go and look at some of the cavalry actually, specifically. Need to look at the Glade Riders because they also come from core as well.
They're core, yep. Now here's a good one.
Yeah, so like Cav, they move 9, which is super nice. They're only 18 points a model. They are ballistic skill 4, which I think is the bit that's going to be important. So yes, they do have elven reflexes, fast cavalry, fire and flee, open order skirmishers, and swift stride. So they're very fast. They're skirmishers, so they're natural -1 to be hit from other ballistic skill shooting. They have bows.
They're horses. They're unit strength over 1, so they don't get that.
They don't get what? Swift stride?
They don't get the -1 to be hit.
Oh, what, from skirmishers?
Yeah, that's only you got to be an infantry on foot. Well, you got to be unit strength 1.
Ah, very interesting. Okay, so you don't get that.
I only know that because I cheated at least a couple of games. I can't remember what I was using, but definitely did that.
Good stipulation. Good to know. All right. Well, either way, they're skirmishers.
Yes.
So you're very mobile. They're only 18 points, which feels cheap compared to the other units as well. They're very fast, of course. And then, you could just take all of the bows if you want to. You can have drilled. You can have the reserve move, which is the key part here. Being able to be an additional point each, taking 19 points. You shoot and then do another move, and you move really fast. So you can move, shoot, move, which is very good. And people like this. The one thing, again, though, no armor.
0 armor.
So...
Oopsie doopsie.
So literally a fireball can take a unit of 5 of these. It's close to 100 points. Fireball could just take 100 points off without you even thinking. And their output's pretty rubbish for what you're getting for those 100 points.
I think you got an argument here for True Flight Arrows. It's also, because of reserve move, not a bad spot to stash your caster. They do skirmish, right?
They do skirmish, yes.
So not a bad place to stash that caster if you don't have them on like a Warhawk or something. Interesting, they can be drilled. That's weird. You got to pay for reserve move?
You do have to pay. Point a model, so you're going to go up to 19 points. Then you can take 2 fly arrows, maybe. Then you're up to 20 points a model. 20
points a model for 5 of them. It's 100 points a unit. These guys, Wood Elves, guys. I'm sympathizing. I was starting to think like, Wood Elves players, what are you doing? You got all the good stuff. You got cool shit. Why aren't you winning stuff? I can see why this is hard.
Shout out to Fraser, who I played once at a Hell Cannon, and he kept just popping out 5 of these, shooting my Hell Cannon, and then popping 5 back, and doing 0 damage. And I was like, Fraser, could you just stop that? It's wasting both of our time, and let my Hell Cannon just kill itself. And right enough, it just killed itself on turn 4. Yeah. And I was like, look, we've saved ourselves both time there. He's like, you're right. That was, what am I doing? And at that point, I realized that I would gladly let you have 100 of these, and I wouldn't give a single fuck like about their existence.
Also, I just want to let you know that in the interest of saving time, you took his one thing away from him, which was the Okay, that's not nice. That was a nice round.
Well, I still let him tree
it was
whack me.
unkind.
I still let him tree at me, so
Okay, that's nice.
It was fine.
Well, the tree men, you don't want them to get too pent up. You want them to release every now and again.
You do not. Okay, let's go we're gonna just jump between units now. Let's go look at War Dancers. Okay.
Yeah.
War Dancers 16 point. Oh no, this is you. We're on you now.
All right. I do. Well, you were the one who does like a good dance.
I love it. I do love dancing.
Loves a good dance. So here we go. I'll try my best. War Dancers, movement 5, weapon skill 6. All right. Ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 6. All right. 1 attack, leadership 8, 16 points per model. Any model in the unit may take one of the following: additional hand weapons for 1 point, or a throwing spear for freezies. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You may upgrade. You got full command options. You can have a magical standard up to 50 points. Blade Singer may purchase magic items up to a total of 25 points. They have Dances of Loic, which we'll get into, which is their big special rule. Evasive, Furious Charge, +1 attack on the charge. Immune to Psych, Loner. Motley Crew, so they can have mixed weapons. Move through cover, open order, skirmishers, strike first, talismanic tattoos. That means, Rob, they get a
save. They get a save.
And that's just in there. They just threw that in for freezies, guys. Very generous.
That's free.
Very generous. Dances of Loic, or Loke, I guess probably. When this unit's combat is chosen during step 1.1 of any choose and fight combat subphase, choose one of the following Dances of Loke for it to perform. Every model within the unit performs the same dance. Whirling Death, until the end of the combat phase, the armor-piercing characteristic of this unit's weapons is improved by 2. Cool. Storm of Blades, until the end of this combat phase, this unit gains the extra attacks, +1 special rule, so up to 3 attacks now on the charge. The Shadow's Coil, until the end of the combat phase, the unit has a 4+ ward save against any wounds suffer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Woven Mist, any enemy model that directs its attacks against this unit during this combat phase suffers a -1 modifier to its rolls to hit. Mm-hmm. Note that a Shadow Dancer that joins the unit is considered to have this special rule as well. Okay, so we're at 16 points. We don't got to spend anything extra on them, and that brings them a little bit more pricey than the other 2 combat units we've looked at so far. They have the ability to dump a bucket of attacks, and I believe they can bring additional hand weapons so if you did want to upgrade a point. So like these guys could just dump a lot of attacks on you.
Yes, they absolutely can. But they are going to just get mullered before they ever. I mean, they're initiative 6 actually, so they if someone charges them, actually they might get to swing before quite a lot of units that charge them. But they are slow and they will get shot. So, and they're expensive, like nearly a cavalry model worth of points per dude. And they are like, I mean, you could take loads, and then eventually maybe it'll work out.
I mean, you will run out of points before you probably have loads.
Yeah. And also like the combat effects, they're basically Forsaken, right? Only they're not core choice. Yeah. They don't have an innate 5-up ward. They don't have a 5-up armor save. And the bonuses that you can electively give them, which is quite nice, are only really okay. The extra attacks, I guess. But then what am I charging into with like 3 strength 3 attacks?
Yeah, I feel you there. But I mean, there's lots of Death Stars out there that are just reliant on squishy infantry and lots of cheap ones. That might be a place where they're useful to just try and blender through that stuff. Although, they're usually toughness 3s, so you're winning them on 4s. I don't know. I want to say these guys might have some utility. And they're also strike first. So even that initiative 6 is, and they're going at initiative 10. So they're swinging before everything. So I don't know. I think there's something there. Again, just very, very pricey.
So let's take us through Weight Watcher, shall we?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, sure. Weight Watcher is a missile-based unit. They are ballistic skill 5, 16 points a model. They're strength and toughness 3. This is going to blow your mind. They don't have any armor. Okay. They have Asteroid longbows, and they can take all the upgrades. They have evasive, elven reflexes, feigned flight, fire and flee, ignores cover, move through cover, scouts, and skirmishers. And then they can have ambushers, they can have vanguard, and they can have veteran. And that's it. It's just your Asteroid longbows, and you're paying extra points. I think it's like 4 points more a model for some extra special rules and +1 ballistic skill. And then you're just saying to yourself, okay, what am I taking? Taking some arcane bodkins? Am I taking some hagbane tips? What's the plan? Ultimately, it's a lot more of that shooting that's quite expensive, that doesn't really do very much and doesn't have a very high strength. So, and you could be in loads of places, sure. Like if ever like grabbing bits of the board edge or grabbing bits of terrain or doing something that was about being somewhere on the board, like an objective or like a scenario-based thing, then these would be definitely more functional.
You're also locked to waystalkers with these guys.
For sure. So I just can't see these being very effective.
I guess the episode. So this is a little heartbreaking for me. They used to have a different way that they shot, so they were sort of different than the other guys. And they're locked. I don't know if I've already said this. These guys are locked to waystalkers. So you need one waystalker per one of these units. So that's something. One of the big things I could see them useful for would just be, again, that going for that MSU shooting approach. This is another way to get another unit of 5 guys on the table, assuming you take the waystalkers.
Yeah. Let's go through Dryads and Treekin, shall we?
Shall we? Dryad is movement 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, 1 wound, initiative 4. Look at this, 2 attacks.
Let's go,
leadership
baby.
13 points, folks. Still hampered by that strength of 3. However, regen 6+.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
You can have a champion.
So much better. Sorry, you go. I was going to say these are so much better.
So you can have a champion. They cause fear. They're flammable though. They're immune to psych, magical attacks, move through cover, open order, regeneration 6+, skirmisher, stubborn, tree spirit. So yeah, I mean built-in stubborn. Cause fear. 13 points in model without any big need to upgrade them. Maybe this is again this. They also have light armor, so they're 6+, 6+. Although they are flammable. So they lose their regen to any flaming attacks. That's probably fine.
I mean, it's still 6+, 6+, and toughness 4. Come on, a little bit more survivable.
T4, 2 attacks too.
2 attacks as well. I'll take that for 2 points more, right? I personally would. I think that would be decent. So yeah, I like these. I think these feel a little bit better. Obviously, you're not going to get like close order and a bunch of other stuff from this unit. But
can't bring a standard.
Yeah. So like they're not necessarily doing combat res that way, but at least they're looking like a unit that will do a bit more, which I think is okay. Treekin, on the other hand, are 51 points.
Monstrous infantry.
Toughness 5. Which is nice, and 3 wounds apiece. So that's quite nice because that's kind of puts us in the same range points-wise as some of the other units that we've seen up there per wound, like 15-ish points per wound. Not quite, 15, 16 points per wound, which is pretty nice. But then we get that on a toughness 5 base with 3 attacks each. Weapon skill 4, it's strength 4, which is okay. And then we got Armor Bane 2. We've got a Stomp Attack, Stubborn. We get a Tree Whack if that works. And you get Regen and you get Heavy Armor. So for about the same points as you would get one of your core infantry units per wound, you're going to get a wound with an attack on a 5+, 5+ with a Stomp, Armor Bane. They are flammable for sure. They're immune to psychology, but they're okay. They're just good because monstrous infantry is just kind of
pointed. Stop attack too.
Yeah.
And a tree whack.
And a tree whack. The tree whack's kind of good. So I'm not.
These guys.
Yeah, I'm not mad at the Treekin. I think the Treekin are actually pretty decent, especially because monstrous infantry aren't pointed well versus infantry, or infantry aren't pointed well versus whichever way round it is. I don't know. Whichever way. But I actually think that they like maths wise much more effective.
17 points of wound, but you are a little bit more durable for sure. A lot more durable. Treekin, okay. Still looking for that anchor unit. Feels a bit dicey going for this. Although maybe it'd be fun to lean all the way into the forest spirits and just have all of the trees. But there's not a lot of supporting rules for that, so it makes it maybe a little boring. But anyway.
For sure. Okay, so we got Sisters of the Thorn. Oof, baby, take us through this.
Sisters of the Thorn. So we talked about their nerf already. They're 24 points in model. We got weapon skill 4, BS 5, 6 on the champ, strength 3, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 4, 1 attack each, leadership 9. That's very nice. The Steed of Isha is a bit slower, I guess, because it's like a fancy elk. So it's a movement 8. Although it is strength 4, which is nice. That's helpful. Sisters of the Thorn have hand weapons and Blackbriar javelins, which are actually good. And Seeds of Isha, we've got Hooves counts as hand weapons. Cool. They can take full command, and they can take a magic standard. And the Handmaiden can indeed take magic items up to 25 points. They have the Daughters of Eternity special rule, which we'll talk about. Deepwood Coven, Elven Reflexes, Fast Cavalry, Fire and Flee, Move Through Cover, Open Order, Poisoned Attacks, Swift Stride. Very cool. The Daughters of Eternity rule is one of the better ones here. This unit has a 4+ ward save against any wounds suffered. So that makes it a decent bunker for casting folks, and is also a save. So that's a benefit that they have that others don't seem to. Deepwood Coven, every Sister of the Thorn is imbued with a small measure of Ariel's magic. A unit of Sisters of the Thorn knows a single spell chosen by the controlling player before armies are deployed, from either the battle magic or elementalism lore of magic. That is not true. You now randomly roll for one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
The unit may cast this spell as a bound spell. If the unit has a Handmaiden of the Thorn, it may cast a bound spell with a power level of 1. If it includes both a Handmaiden of the Thorn and a Standard Bearer, it may cast a bound spell with a power level of 2. So that sounds like a no-brainer upgrade. Otherwise, the unit may cast a bound spell with no positive. Finally, they've got the Blackbriar Javelin, which is 12 inches, strength 3, -1 AP, move and shoot, and quick shot with poisoned. So it can be useful a little bit for just little peppering of poison attacks.
Yes. The actual weapon itself is pretty nice, right? Move and shoot, quick shot. I quite like that. That's nice. Poisoned attacks as well, so it can just pop off. I mean, they're not going to be taken as much as they were because they gained access to, they lost access to just getting the spell that they wanted. But it's a really fun unit that's very thematic and also has been designed quite in a really nice way. It does a lot. It's got a lot to it. It's really interesting. It gives you a lot of, really ties in, I think, with the main traits that you get. And be able to put forest down, do other stuff, and it really exemplifies a unit that can do something like that quite well. 24 points for a pretty. I mean, the ward save is great, great. The ward save stops me just saying, "What the hell?" But the ward save's good. We'll take that.
The ward save is a good place to work off of. Again, randomly generating the spell is really what takes the. Well, it was just heavy-handed because I think being able to pick the spell that they had was super powerful. Now randomly rolling makes it a little bit too dicey, I think. But that was the star of the show once upon a time when Wood Elves had a real mean build with all their pillars of fire.
Yeah, right. Wild Riders next. Let's go. Move 9. Okay, get ready. They got 1 attack each, but don't worry, they're frenzied. They're strength 4, toughness 3. They're 27 points each. Okay, they can take shields, but why would you? They do have light armor, so this is actually your heavily armored unit. Light armor and a shield. You're ready to rock. Full command, obviously, and then you can take a standard up to 50 points. But importantly, their hunting spear is strength +1, AP 2, and armor bane. Which is nice. And they have counter charge. They have elven reflexes. They've got fast cavalry, fear. They have frenzy and furious charge. That's going to be three attacks on the charge. And then they move through cover, open order, swift stride, and talismanic tattoo. So you do have a 6-up ward save as well. So a 5-up, 6-up, but importantly, move 9, swift stride, frenzy, 3 attacks. Now, these feel much more like the kind of MSU dream, really. Just fire 5 off, fire 5 off, fire 5 off. Strength 5, AP 2, 3 attack, 15 attacks. on the charge is okay. 16 attacks from the champ. Yeah. Like, these are fun. These are fun, but they die on any swing back. Anything that hits them back, die to ballistic steel shooting. They're classic. They're just going to fall to pieces. But I quite like these, personally.
I feel like combining Wild Riders and War Dancers, maybe you get a little, and the Dragon, you get a little bit of pressure at least, so that way, and if you MSU them, maybe that divides what can be focus fired on. There's everything points to needing to be MSU, but they're just so expensive that it still doesn't really get you that far. It's tough. The Wild Riders, they do hit like a truck if they somehow survive long enough to hit something.
And as someone is just saying in the chat, I lost an entire unit of 10 of these to a fireball last game. Yeah, the thing is...
Holy shit.
Well,
that is a very good fireball roll.
I mean... The thing is that this army is an army that wants to trade, right? It wants to be like, listen, I'll give up 5 dudes, but I'm moving out the way and I'm going to shoot you. But it either doesn't do enough damage or it just takes too much damage. That's the current TLDR with what we're looking at from this book. Anyway, let's talk about Warhawk Riders, baby. Let's do it.
Yes, sir. Warhawk Riders, we got weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, strength 3, toughness 4, 2 wounds, initiative 4, 1 attack, leadership 8, 44 points. Ay caramba. And then they can obviously take a champion. Their movement 2, guys. So get fucked if you run into the Falcon Horn. That's fun. Whoopsie, that means it can't fly if your Bretonnian friend passes the leadership check, and they always have veteran. Okay. Hand weapons, cavalry spears, Asteroid longbows. So they're shooting and stuff. They can take all the magic arrows. Elven reflexes, evasive, fear, feign flight, fire and flee, fly 10, skirmishers, and swift stride. They do have wicked claws on the Warhawk. That does have 2 attacks and is strength 3. So that's a -2 AP, strength 3 attacks. They don't have any stomps or anything like that. This is one of those things that you wish was more fun. I think the unit is fun 100%, but you're just not getting enough of them for 44 points. That's 22 points a model.
No.
So are they that much better than a Glade Rider? I don't know.
No, not really. I mean,
22 points per wound. Sorry, is what I was trying to say.
21 points per wound. I guess in reality, it's like maybe the meta itself, as in like, because it's true that almost everything in the game was really copy and pasted from 8th edition, right? Across, as in the rules for the units, right? And then in this situation, maybe they like when you've got things that can just like move after they've like overran or charged or like beat a unit up or whatever, and they're just they've chased a unit down, and then they're looking in another angle to just charge down, and they're as fast as your Warhawk Riders, but they're 10 wounds at toughness 6 with a 3 up save. It really limits, like when everything else is as fast as your Warhawk Riders just lose the thing that they're good at, and they're just going to get shot by a fireball and died and killed, which is disappointing. I just want everyone to be clear. I'm trying to be upbeat, but the Arcane Journal is very much needed for Wood Elves. I'd say that's very true. And then we've got Great Eagles, maybe the MVP of the army. They're toughness 4.
Are they still though? Are they still? Once upon a time they were.
Okay.
But it's a genuine question.
What is the MVP? I'm trying really hard to be positive.
Yeah. No, I know. But these were like 2 of these guys were like, that's how you started your list once upon a time. Honest question. Like, I guess there are ways to use them to like railroad units is what should you do. They're just not the great redirectors they once were.